Now this is a little tricky. We already have tension on it. So what you want to do is push that lever in, kind of slide that tensioner back just enough so that you can get the guide behind it. And then we'll put the one 10mm bolt here on top. This is what it should look like when it's all set and done. Timing mark there on the bottom. Timing mark on the gear on the bottom there. And they should be completely parallel. And if you look here at the front, it shows front on the cam. And right there lined up with the head is top dead center. That's the way it should look. Okay, now that we've got the timing belt on, or the timing chain, we've got the rockers on, we've got the camshaft in, we've got the lifters in. The next step is going to be to torque down these 10mm bolts. We're going to do that now. Alright, now we're going to put the head bolts in. I recommend you just take a little bit of motor oil. I just have a little squirt can just before you put them in. It kind of helps the threads go down. It's a good idea when you pull the head to always replace the bolts. I don't necessarily know if you have to do it, but it's just a good idea. So I'm just going to lube up all these bolts and we'll zip those down. Okay, I just snugged down the head bolts and I backed them all off. And then, you know, we obviously got the head gasket in there. And now I'm going to just torque them down to 45 foot-pounds to start. And then I'm going to just zigzag back and forth. Alright, now I'm going to go to 85 foot-pounds. And you notice how I did it. I crossed back and forth. I did these two, those two, and these two. It's important to do it like that so we get proper torquing, okay? Okay, now we got two O-rings that we need to put in for the oil pump. They only go one way. So the big one obviously goes right there. Small one goes right there. Now we have a couple guide pins, one right here and one right here. Now if you're doing this inside the car, it's a little difficult. You just have to kind of finesse it in there. But just so you know, there's a guide pin here and here. And you also have to line up the oil pump. The oil pump lines up right here on this crankshaft sprocket. So when you go to put this on, just make sure you get all that. Sometimes you have to just put your fingers in there, kind of line up that oil pump. Just get it kind of worked into place. Okay. Then we have, I think, 13 bolts on the outside, and then we have one right here in the middle. We'll go ahead and put those on now. Got our 8mm bolt tightened and all of the other 13 10mm bolts. I'm going to go ahead and put the crankshaft pulley on. Tighten it down. And then I want to make 2 full rotations on the engine. Just make sure that nothing's binding up. It's important once you get this timing cover on to just double check that. It's always a good idea before you start putting everything together. Now, if this goes all the way over with nothing binding up, then our engine's totally fine. That's 1 revolution right there. I'm going to go one more time. Okay, and there we go, top dead center. Everything looks to be lined up. So we're good to go. Timing cover's good, nothing's rubbing. I'm gonna put the valve cover on, tighten down the two T30s on the very top. You will want to use gasket adhesive right around here on the valve cover and also on the timing cover to seal that all up. When you go to put the oil pan on, same process. All right, our last step, put everything together. We're going to seal it up. Make sure you put some of the sealant around the edges. Put your cover on and your two T30s. And then we will be done with the engine assembly. Then on next week's video, we'll put the oil pan on. We might actually include that in this video. And then the following videos next week, we'll put all the components on. Intake, exhaust, alternator, all those things. So we just tighten these down to about 15-20 foot-pounds and we're done. Alright, so now we're going to flip it over, put the oil pump in, put the oil pan on, and we will be done. Okay, we're going to go ahead and flip it over. And now we're going to put the oil sump, which goes right here. We will tighten it down. It's got an 8mm bolt here and two 10mm bolts here. We'll tighten this down and we'll grab the oil pan. Alright, I'm going to tighten down this 8mm on the oil pickup too. There's also a rubber gasket right underneath there. You want to make sure that gets put back in. But we'll tighten that down first. And then we'll tighten down the brackets. And I believe these are 13mm. Before we put the oil pan on, we want to make sure that we put on the rear main seal. Let's get that lined up. And then we will put the four 8mm bolts in and torque those down to about 15 foot-pounds. Maybe less than that, maybe 8 foot-pounds. Alright, now that we've got the rear main seal on, timing cover on, oil sump on, now we're going to take and put the oil pan on. And the 20 10mm, actually they're 20 8mm bolts to hold the oil pan on. Also make sure you put that sealant around the outside. We're going to do that right now. Alright, this here is the sealant that we're using. Just the Permatex Ultra Black that we put underneath. Just make a real good bead all the way around and then zip down the bolts. Alright, we got this housing that goes from the engine block to the transmission, and it has four 13mm bolts, but we're not going to tighten this all the way down. We'll wait till the engine gets put in the car, and then we can tighten these two to the bell housing. Show your muscles. Cool. Not too much. Okay, we just finished up. I think it took us probably about 5 hours to put the engine back together if you add it all up. Really, pretty much anything that's left is just the outside parts, the intake manifold, exhaust manifold, which we'll still film that too. But my dog Rambo saying goodnight. Did you learn anything, Rambo? Did you learn anything, Brando? Rambo? Brandon, how? Did you learn anything?
Yeah.
What? What did you learn?
Don't over tighten the bolts.
What happens if you over tighten bolts?
They crack and break.
They snap bolts and bend oil pans. So we did learn something. You know how the engine works now?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we're out for tonight. We'll see you guys next week. We'll film the rest of it as we put it back together. But until next time, we'll see you on the next video. Please rate, subscribe, and comment. and let us know what you think of the Saturn videos. Hopefully you've enjoyed us putting the engine back together just for you guys, because we're not going to fire this up, but we just want you guys to know how to put things back together. So anyway, talk to you next week.